Welcome to episode 8 of Into the Clashiverse. Thank you for joining us this week, folks. We have a really special set of folks that are joining us. Technically, the four favorite people I have in Clash are on this episode. That includes Wolfie. And so we have today Kat, the leader from from
Where am I
Redthorn.
from?
You're from Redthorn, and the queen of the Redthorn family. She's the supreme overlord. And she also hosts the Pineapples and Thorns podcast. Also, today we have Congressman Coolrick. He is the subreddit moderator for Clash of Clans, as well as doing the Reddit Talks Clash podcast. And last but not least, we have the forever most humble podcaster Trample Damage, who hosts the Inside Clash podcast. So thank you for joining us, folks. So
Our pleasure.
instead of the normal like, oh, where's your Clash story, because people can go find that anywhere on our podcast because they're out there. What's folks' favorite troop or spell in the game? We'll start with you, Kat.
Okay, favorite troop. Well, my favorite troop all time is always the Witch. Favorite spell? Well, currently it'd probably be the Recall spell. So I can try and save the 2-star.
That's fun. All right, Trample.
I have long been a massive fan of Hog Riders. It is, I think, the troop that got me very interested in the game back at Town Hall 7 when Hog Riders became available and I first started using mass Hog Rider attacks. I thought this is a game that I can get behind. And I'm only sad that right now it is not my primary troop, but Hog Rider. And if we're also adding spell, it would be the Earthquake spell. I believe it is undervalued for its ability to blow bases wide open.
Oh, good answer. Okay, Rick.
Ooh, I would have to hogs are what really open the game for me. So there's always going to be like a soft spot for Town Hall 8 and up hogs. Probably all time the most fun I've had with the troop was the pre-nerf druid, and I think druids are still fun. But yeah, so I think druid.
Okay, Wolfie, what about you?
I think my favorite is probably the Valks. I just really like the spin attacks and how it can do splash damage while also being a ground troop, because you really only see splash damage with air troops nowadays.
Interesting. Nice. Very cool. I think mine, I'm going to have to say hogs were kind of the first love after dragons. Yeah, for some reason, dragons were actually my favorite troop relatively early on at Town Hall 7. That's what actually got me going in the game. And then Town Hall 9 really got me with Goho and the Queen Walk. So dragons and hogs, those are definitely my favorite.
All you old people with your hogs. Man.
Just have respect for your elders, okay? Okay. So after we warmed up on that for kind of a fun question, let's talk the state of Clash. We just had the March update. I know a bunch of us have already talked about that. Check out all our previous episodes. We all talked about the one update. But we're entering in CWL season. And given the updates between offense and defensive levels, what do y'all think is going to happen with the hit rates? Because I think we're all in Champs 2 or above clans. And that's going to really have impact at the high level of the game. What do y'all think? Start with you, TD.
We got crushed last month in Champ 1, and it was very painful. I had the lowest hit rate that I've had for quite some time between my 2 accounts and our Champ 1 spin. I was at a 50% hit rate, which I know is great in a lot of places. So, it's all relative. But in Champ 1, it was not great. I heard, and Congressman Coolrick can keep me honest on this, that the overall hit rate for Champ 1 was around 70%. But in our specific group, if you look at the 7 clans we were up against, I want to say their hit rate was right around 90%. So I think we only had one, maybe there were 2 wars, but I think only one war, which is the war we won, where 43 stars would have been enough for a victory. In the other, because we got perfected a couple times, we had 44 a couple of times. I anticipate this month being a slightly lower hit rate just because of the new additions to the defenses. I know we got new army camp levels, But I honestly think the hit rate's going to take just a little bit of a haircut, but I think it's probably going to be pretty close to what we were looking at before.
Hey, Rick, I guess you're in the same wars. What are your thoughts?
Man, so yeah, Trample's right. The hit rate for February was like 70% in Champs 1, and it was 75% the month before, I know. So, and it feels like our clan accounts for that entire 5% drop on the average, because we had a rough month. And I was expecting it to go up. I was telling people like this might be the highest hit rate of all time. I think it's possible that happens again, especially with people not having all the new defenses upgraded and having lost a level by losing the supercharges. Like, people do seem to be struggling a little more. So I personally would expect the April hit rate to go up a little and then settle out lower than 70 a month or two from now once all those defenses finish.
Interesting. Wolfie, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I actually think it's going to go up at the start of the CWL, and then as more buildings get upgraded, I expect it to drop. But overall, I think it's probably going to be a drop. I see that these upgrades, especially on like the Mono and Infernos, are really gonna get rid of some power in the armies.
Okay, Kat, what do you think?
I'm thinking that it's going to stay, to start off with, I think it's going to stay about the same and then probably go up a little bit because people are figuring out some of the new stuff that we got, the new Furnace Troop. I've seen some interesting attacks with that, as well as people using it on defense. I think we're going to see a real wide variety of hit rates.
I think for me, I see it as with the new camps, people will prioritize that. So things will go up for a little bit. And then I don't know if it'll be in time for this Clan Wars, maybe at the Champs 1, Champs 2 levels, because there's a bunch of people who try hard, use builder potions, drop money on the game to accelerate the defensive upgrades. I think Champs 1 and 2 will probably net the same. I think Champs 3, you're going to see the hit rate go way up as people have just prioritized the camps and not so much the defenses. But that's me.
So you're copying my work and just changing the wording?
Better than the normal other way around.
Hey. No shots needed.
Just shots of coffee.
Ooh, I would take another thing of coffee. Guess I can ask the next one.
Coffee? Ew, gross. Sorry, just making fun of coffee.
Are you not a coffee drinker?
I don't like coffee. I drink soda. I drink Coke. There's not a ton of caffeine in it, but I've never been a coffee person. I see people drink coffee and they doctor it up with all kinds of stuff to where by the time they're done, there's like 1 drop of coffee left in it. I'm like, I guess I could probably drink that, but
Picked up coffee only after having kids.
Yeah, I am quite a problem, aren't I? Anyways, so what are your favorite time updates to the game from March, other than the training time reductions? Like, what?
So favorite update in the game, not counting the most recent training time one. I think my favorite update that the game has had outside of this one, because this is definitely up there, is actually the troop cost removal. Because I went from being a player who only did, either mass dragon attacks where I could just quickly open and spam and close that, or I would do this Jai Barch Wiz army where I would lay down a line of giants, then some barbarians, some archers, some wizards, send in a couple wall breakers, rage spell, and heal toward the core, just trying to get the Dark Elixir storage in the town hall so that I could save Dark Elixir to then upgrade my heroes. Because heroes, granted today they are an even bigger part of our army than they were in the past, but it was always a very important function to have strong heroes in the game. And I never wanted to spend Dark Elixir for any of my multiplayer attacks. It was always just Elixir armies so that I could save Dark Elixir until my heroes were maxed for my town hall. Then I would switch to armies. And this is why I love 8 Earthquake spells so much. I switched to armies that were completely Dark Elixir so that I could then save gold and elixir for the rest of my upgrades, which normally finished with walls because I was very slow on walls for a lot of my town halls. I would still maxer for life. Take that, T. But I was always spending non-Dark Elixir up front, and it just contorted the way that I played. And I wasn't able to choose the armies that I wanted because I was always so conscious of the cost. And when they removed the cost, which I actually anticipated them doing when they did that 99% reduction thing a couple of years ago, I was telling people, I think this is going to lead to them figuring out that they can just take this out of the game and they'll just find a way to balance the economy. That to me was a massive game changer because I became much better and much more varied with my attacks because I wasn't just using Dark Elixir troops in war.
We can move on to Drac. You want to go ahead?
Along with getting rid of that, because I too back in the day would swap between dark armies and pink armies just depending on what I needed to upgrade and be able to do that and highly optimized for which resource that you're after, especially from the most recent update that I'm really enjoying is time reduction that you can get from the gold pass for the requesting clan castle troops. I'm actually loving that.
Kat, you got anything?
If we're talking about like all time, one thing that made the biggest impact for me was the introduction of the poison spell. You didn't have to lure the CC to the corner, try and kill it, surround it with a bunch of archers, and try and kill whatever was there. And I mean, it was really great at first because you would lure to the corner and just drop a poison spell and wait for everything to die and go to your attack. But then they fixed that. So, yeah, I think that was pretty impactful for me. I know it seems small now, but at the time it was huge.
The one archer in the corner with the lava hound just plinking away the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, that was how all of our attacks had to start. Like, it was all about what troops do I need to sacrifice to get within range of the clan castle, because it wasn't the same way it is now where you have to, because didn't you used to be able to just like trigger the entire CC as soon as one troop got in range? Even if that troop went down, the troops would just continue coming out of the clan castle. And then, yeah, it's like, we were a big piece of the defensive strategies earlier on were trying to make it take a long time so that when somebody was sitting there waiting for the poison spell to kill all those troops in the corner, we were just trying to eat up as much time as possible. And then I totally agree, Kat. I think it's a great, it's subtle, but I think it's a great observation.
Okay. Rick, what are your thoughts?
Like Trample knows my memory is terrible, but so I'm real big into recency bias. But like one of my favorite things was part of this update, the change from army layout links to recipes that include pets and equipment and a tied CC request to it. It's such a huge quality of life thing. I'm freely experimenting a lot more with a lot of different friendly challenge comps, and I don't know, I love it.
And the fact that you don't have to wait for getting CC donations to try it.
Oh,
just
I know.
there.
So I can't believe that one snuck in. It wasn't even listed in the patch notes. I didn't know it was coming. Those offensive clan castles are just filled when you change your FC army. It's amazing.
The only thing I don't like about the new UI is like the wooden background and also the massive hero looks, especially when they look like they're looking down at you. It's kind of awkward.
Yeah, it's one of those things like I don't like it. I'm already used to it though. So.
All right, Wolfie, what do you think?
I think my favorite update to the game was probably the introduction of the Root Riders, because that just opened up the new strategies. Because before it felt like a lot of smash attacks. Like the goal was you try and get to the core, you blow it up, and then you do like some sort of ring with like hogs, or you do dragons on the other side. Whereas now with the Root Riders, you can get to the core with the main army instead of trying to send in like a kill squad. I think the Root Rider updates, also bringing back the Valks, which are my favorite troop, it helps me a little bit of bias there.
One of the things that Supercell has been doing of late is trying to get more folks to use the store instead of going through the in-app purchases. What do folks think about the new customizable bundles? And I'd love to hear, like, especially Trample's take, because I think you're the only one here that actually has a creator code.
I think it is a step in the right direction. It is very rudimentary, like this first example that they did. And I know some of the creators actually in the program were a little bit frustrated about the exact mechanism, because some of us thought, oh, this is going to be exclusive to creators, right? Other people aren't going to be able to create bundles and do stuff. And then I started seeing creators replying like, I've got people in my clan saying that they just made their own bundle and they're sharing the link with people. It wasn't giving us any more value than what we were giving in a normal purchase. It's just that it was supposed to be kind of like, hey, I can go tell my community I created this bundle of stuff and this is what I would recommend for this upcoming update. I think that the creators were kind of expecting there to be a little bit more fanfare around it, or maybe a little bit more of a limited thing. I think long term, it'll be really cool if we do have some options behind the scenes to be able to build out stuff that's going to be at least somewhat more varied. Because this one was pretty vanilla, right? It was like book of everything, choose another book, choose a potion, choose a rune, and it's the same price for everybody. Long term, I think it would be pretty cool if they develop some kind of pretty standard rubric behind the scenes that says these magic items are worth roughly this amount of money. And we could go put together stuff that's still a good value where people are going to feel like, oh, that's a good deal. I should definitely pick that up. But then we could say, hey, I built this bundle and it's going to be fundamentally very dissimilar from what somebody else put together, right? Where I say, oh, I've got something that's a $4 bundle, which is just a bunch of potions. And somebody else puts together maybe a $30 bundle that has 8, 9, 10, 12 hero books in. I think some of that kind of stuff will create bigger bonds between the community and between their creators. And I also think that those types of things will give Supercell an opportunity to just differentiate in a way that people can understand. Because right now I still see people that are like, why did you get these deals? And I got a different set of deals. And it's hard for people to really understand how some of those deals come into existence. But I think it's a cool way of them helping to give people a little bit more variety in what they're purchasing, a little bit more variety in what they're seeing. And it can encourage more people to hit up that Supercell store. Because, of course, it's a win for the community, it's a win for the creators, and it's a win for Supercell.
Yeah, I do like the aspect of being able to have it available to individuals as well, not just the creators, because I know what my current needs are for my base. I know I enjoyed it for that aspect. Kat, what do you think?
Oh, I loved it. It was a fantastic idea. Like Trample says, I'd like to see them build on that and make it even more customizable, what I need at this moment on whatever account I'm farming. And it's nice to be able to purchase what I need, not what Supercell throws out there, even though I know Cino probably bought all resource potions as much as he could. But
Rick, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it was a great way to get creators like specifically selling something instead of the generic, like, hey, if you guys use the shop, use my code. They gave creators a reason to say, hey, specifically go buy this one thing. Underwhelming, a little confusing to a lot of people from the start, but I think it's a good place to build from for that future customization like Trample was talking about.
So I'm going to switch to the whole reason why I asked you guys to come join Wolfie and I on the podcast. And that is, we are all content makers from a variety of backgrounds. It's the whole thing is I want to focus on the positivity just because there can be a lot of negativity that happens when changes come. And I really like the vibes that you all put out. And so I just wanted us to get a chance to come together and really highlight some of the positive aspects. What are some of the fun aspects of making content for the game? I know Wolfie and I are, kind of the new kids on the block in this group. What helps keep you going making content? And Kat, let's start with you.
What keeps me going? I enjoy making content. It's a lot of work putting together a show, coming up with a topic, and then building that. At the end of it, there's that satisfaction that you've put out a product that 2 or 3 people out there might enjoy listening
The dozens
to.
of listeners, yeah.
And my 1 or 2 listeners. I like connecting with people and listening to opinions and having my voice out there, complaining about stuff or being positive, whatever the case may be.
Rick, what about you?
I just love talking about the game, So having a podcast is a nice way to like set aside some time. Like, hey, this is one of my favorite things to sit down and talk about. So I'm gonna get a couple of my friends together, someone I'm really interested in talking to. We're just gonna have this conversation. Probably saves my wife and my, a lot of my friends the hassle of hearing me talk about Clash of Clans so much. So it's a real nice outlet that way.
What about you, TD?
I absolutely love the sound of my voice. So whether it's putting stuff on, for me, it all started with talking to some other content creators. I feel like the visual side, right, with some of the stuff we post, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or even streamers posting stuff on Twitch and having stuff on Twitch. For me, like many other creators, we got started because we wanted to teach our clanmates and teach other people how to do stuff that we were good at, because we've got, we're not just average players, we're above average players, we're not pros, but we have a lot of skills and we have a lot of knowledge that we can share. And I was interested in making stuff that I could share with people and tell them, hey, this is, you wonder how I keep 3-starring everybody at this town hall. This is the army that I'm using. This is how I'm doing it. And it felt good to be able to provide resources to the community to help people get better at the game and to drive more excitement when people are playing. And those feelings of success you get when you're just really, really good at something. And I wanted to share that with a lot of other people. So I started making stuff. It just kept going. And then turned into other media, and now the podcast is a ton of fun. Unlike Congressman Coolrick's wife, mine still gets to hear me talk about Clash, even though I spend an hour sitting in my car talking to myself while I'm recording my podcast. But it's just, it is fun. It's fun to talk about the game, even when you spend all the time talking to yourself or your windshield.
Oh, that's well. Your car does like to talk back after a while.
Starts beeping at me, telling me that my exit assist is off, or somebody. Every now and then, people just walk by and they just stare at me because they'll see me in my car with headphones on. And I'm not really a hand waver when I talk, but I feel like if I was gesticulating wildly, it would make more sense. Otherwise, they just see me kind of like slightly tilting my head to one side or the other as I'm thinking about what I'm saying.
The crazy lunatic of Trample.
What the hell is that guy doing? Why is he next to my car? Especially if people park. If I'm in, there's a parking garage for this mall that's close to my office. And in the summertime, I'll park there because it's in the shade. And I have sometimes where somebody, and I try to park where I'm not too close to other people, but sometimes someone will park near me. And then they get out of their car and there's this moment of like, I can see them kind of startle a little bit when they see that there's someone in the car there. And a lot of times it's funny seeing how people choose to try to see what's going on in my car without being obvious about it, because it's clear that they're trying to see. And I swear people think they're being really slick. They're like, he'll never know that I'm staring right at him with this awkward neck angle.
Like their pace slows down as they walk by. Like, Rick, this one's for you. What is it like moderating the community around Clash of Clans? Because kind of the subreddit of Clash of Clans is kind of the official, unofficial community. What drew you to doing that, and what are some of the aspects that you'd want folks to know about it?
Ooh, I don't know. It's weird. It's been part of my everyday routine for years now. So I've been trying to think like how to answer this. Like what's it like? I don't know. It's just part of it's just part of what I do now. I was always big into Reddit too. I would find a new hobby or TV show or something, and one of my first trips online is like, oh cool, let's go see if they have a subreddit to talk about. When I first picked up the game, I joined a clan with some friends and very quickly figured out they were not good at the game at all. So I had to go online to kind of learn it, and I found Reddit, and I said a second ago I love talking about the game, and just hung out long enough to where I decided, hey, maybe I should start helping out. What would I want people to know? I don't. Reddit gets a bad rap a lot for just complaining about stuff. I do think that a lot of that's just the internet in general. If you take a second and look deeper too, there's for every complaint, there's also 3 or 4 people who are saying like, hey, you guys are wild, this is amazing, stop complaining. Like I did a word cloud last night, just looking to see like, hey, what's the most common stuff talked about on the Clash of Clans subreddit, and like complaining was the largest one, but the number 2 word was also stop. So like you can look at that like it's there's complaining and there's complaining about complaining, or if you want to be a little more optimistic, you can see there's complaining, but there's also people fighting to argue back and say, no, this is an amazing game right now. So I would say don't try and judge the community by the loudest weirdo voices, but there's something for everyone if you dig around.
Nice. All right, I guess I'll take the next one. And I think we've set aside about 30 minutes for this question for Trample. All right. So, Trample, you made your initial, quote, mark with videos on YouTube and TikTok. What brought you to doing that, and how has that evolved over time? And what would you want a budding video content maker like me and Drac to do or to know?
My son got me into it. It's evolved a lot over time, and most people fail with content. So the slightly longer answer to that.
We set you up for that one.
My son, it's like a softball. It's an underhand. So my son got me interested in doing stuff in the first place just because he was trying to make some video content for YouTube. And he said, you're really good at the game. And I hear as you're trying to articulate in clan chat, because I'm sitting there, I can type however many characters of a message and then hit enter and then type the rest of it as I'm trying to describe to someone how to deploy their troops in a certain way to make an attack work. It's like, you should just start making videos and posting them on YouTube and then direct people to those. And I thought that actually sounds like a pretty reasonable idea. And it's always just been for fun for me, which is, I think, the best place for all of this to start. It shouldn't start with the goals of becoming Judo Sloth's successor. And I just had a lot of fun with it. And then they started, TikTok came out and my son was talking about wanting to post stuff on TikTok, and I got into that, and a couple of TikToks just got really big and went viral. And it was very early on with TikTok. and there weren't very many Clash people posting on there. So it carved a pretty big niche for me, and I have just been able to have fun with it. Over time, I've told people recently, I've been posting a lot less ever since going to Finland in October and November of last year. I feel like it's almost this notion of, I think somewhere in my head, there's this idea like I won, like I did it. I got invited to go to Clash Worlds. And I think the content creation kind of dropped off a little bit for me. And I don't know that it was something that I was consciously doing, but I think there was this element of, on a subconscious level, like I did it. And do I need to keep fighting as hard? Do I need to keep working as hard? Do I need to keep carving out time for content? Do I need to put down Squad Busters for a few minutes so that I can make a TikTok? And I've been reading a little more and playing a little more video games and playing more Magic the Gathering and doing some other stuff that in the past, I think I would have always prioritized Clash content. And right now, I feel like I'm just really enjoying the game a lot. I'm enjoying the community a lot. I think my podcast is my favorite part, even though in terms of general reach, it has the smallest footprint out of any of the stuff that I do. Some of the newer updates and some of the changes that have come since Town Hall 17. Now I've been posting it. I posted a YouTube video for the first time in a while, posted a couple of TikToks recently. So I am starting to do a little bit more. And I jokingly said, most content creators fail. And I think really the point that I want to make there is when we get into something like this, we have a passion for it. We have this excitement that comes really from our love of the game. And if it starts there and it stays there and it doesn't go beyond that, then we're going to be winning, whether we have hundreds of thousands of views on a YouTube video, tens of thousands of views, hundreds of views, or tens of views on videos. And I know from some of the content creators that I've talked to in the program over time, one of them, I'm not going to say who, one of them flat out told me that they hate the game at this point because it feels more like a burden to continue with, essentially the career that they've created by making Clash content. I feel bad for the person because at the end of the day, it is what they're doing for their revenue to make their life continue to function. And I think if I ever got to the point where it felt like that kind of burden, I would just stop. Fortunately, this isn't my job. None of us are doing this for a living, so we could make that choice if we needed to, but it just has to stay fun. And as long as it's fun and as long as you're having a good time with it, I feel like you're winning.
I love that answer. The next question is for Kat, the queen of the Clash podcast. What drew you into hosting Pineapples and Thorns? Up to 103 episodes now. So that's an amazing feat to just keep at it week after week. What keeps you going? And who are some of the favorite folks you have hosted?
Oh gosh, what drew me in? Over the years, I've been a guest on a bunch of different podcasts, the OG KGH podcast, and Jezza, who was one of the OG leaders of The Rated. He had a podcast, The Dead or Alive. Always had a lot of fun being on those and just talking about Clash of Clans with my friends. When Fish and Chips and Jayla stepped away from the KGH pod, Rusty was the original leader of Kent Greenhouse back in the day. We stepped in to co-host it, and it didn't last that long because the site where the CFF stored all their pod episodes somehow deleted everything. Every previous episode was gone. So we ended up taking a hiatus. And at the time, I was sitting around, there's almost no pods on about Clash of Clans. The CFF was built around podcasting. So I talked to Fox and Rusty about starting one up again. And we decided to start a brand new one, and Pineapples and Thorns was born. And what keeps me going are the people. Enjoy talking to everybody. You see me on Voice pretty much every night talking to people about it. And over the years, I've had the privilege of hosting a number of amazing people on the show. Big Vale, Darian, Itsu, Judo Sloth, along with other podcasters such as, yourselves, C-Note, our dear friend Hero and his partner Wizard of Woo. There's just so many amazing people who've agreed to come on the show.
Wow. This one is for everyone. So Drag and I have had several outtake moments recording the last show, and I'll go first saying my favorite things that have been left on the cutting room floor. There was a moment where we were sitting there for almost 5 minutes trying to just calm down, and anytime that I tried to speak, it came out like this mumbo jumbo, prime example right there. I have that stutter, and it just completely butchered us for 5 minutes. We were dying laughing, just having a great time. But obviously we can't keep that in the show. What have been your guys' favorite moments that have happened like that? I guess we'll start with Trample.
Well, I'm the most boring. Yeah, I'm the most boring on this one, so I'll go ahead and start because it's just me sitting in my car with a sheet of paper with some notes. I think my favorite outtake was this one time I went and I needed to cut that out because I didn't want people hearing me sucking snot in between some of my sentences. It was a touching moment. I felt kind of bad. I was tempted to keep it in there just because like it was one of the most epic snot
The
sucking
true.
sounds I
This
had
is like
ever
a true
made.
inside trample damage
And
moment.
yeah, that was
Oh gosh. Gross.
so. I'll say this: my favorite moment, which I'm going to just say from my perspective, that feels like some kind of which I created a situation for Congressman Coolrick when they had me on the Reddit Talk
Uh-oh.
Splash podcast last year. I was in my car recording, and I needed to, we had been I would talk a lot, and he dared to ask me a question, and so I'm still talking. It's like 4.5 hours later, and I went through 2 bottles of soda and a bottle of water in my car. I had to pee really bad, so like I got out of my car and I'm like muting my phone as I'm going in between him asking questions and me answering the questions. And I managed to get to the restroom, use the restroom, wash my hands, all without needing to create anything that somebody would have to cut out. And then I wanted to try to get back to my car really quickly, so I ran back to my car, and I was totally out of breath when I got back to my car. So he asked me a question, and I was like, I don't have the air to answer this. So I just pretended like I disconnected for a second. And I just waited until I caught my breath, and then I started, and I could hear the guys. They're all like, "Rebel, did we lose you?" "Oh no, I we lost Trample." And then eventually, when I had enough air to at least get a few sentences out, then I would mute it and be like, and then I'd start talking again. So that's whether he knows it or not, that's what happened during that episode.
No, that's the first time I've heard the faking it detail of that story.
All right. I guess we can go to you, Rick. Like, what was your favorite moment?
And I try not to cut anything real fun. Sam swears a lot, so sometimes we'll go off on weird tangents and a lot of that cut. I don't necessarily think there's anything like fantastic that's been on the cutting room floor. Our very first episode years ago ended up not being recorded. There was some miscommunication with how Reddit rolled out the talks feature. We had tested it, we figured out how to download the MP3 from it, and everything was good. And then the admins enabled it for our subreddit because we'd been testing it on like a beta, the separate testing subreddit just for the talks feature. So we did it. I go to look to where to download the MP3, and it's not there. So we had to talk to the admins, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we only enabled the broadcast part. We didn't enable the recording part. Like, is that something you think people will want?" Our pilot episode is one of the like we have a fabled lost pilot somewhere out in the ether, still making its way through space, catching up to Voyager. But I think that would be the one thing that if I could go find something to listen to that was cut, I would like to go back to that.
Always. All right. I guess last but certainly not least, Kat, what was your favorite moment?
Well, we tried to leave nothing on the floor other than some pauses and ums and stumbles. But one thing that sticks out to me as far as outtakes, back on the KGH podcast, we had Storm Rider and Tarlis on. Tarlis was a former co-leader in Redthorn. They were chatting away, and it was like a weekend, so they were having some adult beverages. And all of a sudden, Tarlis went quiet, and next thing you know, he'd gone to the washroom. Hadn't muted himself.
No.
But our editor at the time, Sids, left it in.
Oh gosh.
He didn't take it out of the show. So that's out there. I can't remember which episode it was, but if you search for a Storm Rider and Tarlis episode on KG8,
Of course,
then,
Storm Rider was involved.
you will find the episodes.
That's a good one. One of these days, I'll have to do the outtakes of what happens on executive videos that I've been a part of. So none of my fault, but I got to experience some good ones. So this is another question for all of y'all. Do you see the quality of life changes that Supercell's been putting into the game change how the community has been engaging with the game and like in comments and other things? either like in the content or in Discord? I know, like, I'll start off real. My answer short is yes. The quality of life people are like excited about the game again. They're diving in. I've seen kind of like the negativity trend down in terms of the Discord servers that I'm a part of. Trample, let's start with you on this one.
There's this long list of stuff that people want, how to make the game better, how to do things more effectively, what should happen, what shouldn't happen. In this update particularly, this is something where I feel like they over-delivered more than any of us would have reasonably expected. And I think this is the kind of thing I know from my own personal experience and I've talked about this on my podcast before, so I won't go into detail on it, but Squad Busters made a change to their game that essentially did something fairly similar, where it reduced what was previously existing barriers to playing the game sort of as much as you want. And I thought it would be a very, very long time before Clash, if ever, would choose to do something like this. And I think they're taking a page out of Squad Busters' playbook with this one is the best thing that they could have done. And I keep seeing these comments from people in clan chat, on Discord, all about how excited we are. And I know my own personal experience on this. I posted something on, I know there's always a lot of, negative posts on Reddit and people complain about stuff, one of those like complaining about complaining, when I chimed in with a comment in there just saying that for myself, over the last couple of days since the Clash Anytime mechanism rolled out, I already anticipated it was going to be something that I would enjoy, something that I thought would bring a lot of value to the way that I interact with the game. And I said, every day I just feel like I'm getting more and more excited about this update. And I know that I have too many bases, but the way that this just I'll have a base that's like 40,000 Dark Elixir from making a hero upgrade. I make my 2 attacks and I'm like, okay, I'm still 26,000 Dark Elixir away. And I tell myself, I'll try to remember to come back to this base sometime soon so that I can finish getting that upgrade done. And whether I had 2 bases or 3 bases or far too many bases, this change has allowed me to be able to really focus on getting stuff done instead of, well, I'm out of armies, so I got to jump to another base, and it's a Town Hall 12, and I should have, that's right, this one I was really close, but I haven't played on this account for 3 days, and now I've lost a bunch of that elixir. So that one post that I made, just that comment as a reply, got like 160 upvotes. And I think that's just a way to really see how much the community really, truly feels, because it's kind of quiet and they don't have to spend a lot of time writing a dissertation about it. But people just being able to look at a comment like that and go, you know what? I feel seen. I agree with this. And I'm seeing that everywhere. I'm so stoked about this update.
All right, Kat.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's kind of hard to get used to because you're so used to go in, train my army. Oh, I forgot to train an army. I have to go back and come back in an hour and do my attacks. Now you can just crank out playing in Legends, you can crank out your 8 attacks pretty quickly. Looking forward to keep attacking after your 8 attacks. But, I've seen a few comments from people, well, I did all my Legend hits. Now what do I do? I said, go start another account.
That's been a common theme in our household as well. It's like, now what?
Yeah, I think I finished all my hits at 8:30 in the morning. Actually, no, that's a lie. It was more like 10:30. I don't wake up by 8. And I was just sitting there like, what do I do? And so I picked up, what is it, our Nintendo Switch and started playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like almost a farming. I took one of my 9s, and my goal is to get it up to 15 eventually. But I'm
That's a long
currently
trek.
just starting on 12 now.
Purposely doing the pet grind again? No, thank you.
Yeah, just yeah, I'm crazy, but what can I say? But it allows me to get my Legend hits done pretty quickly. Then I'm off to farm my other accounts. Yeah.
Rick, what do you see? Because you kind of had the, overseeing the biggest community, and you even did your like word cloud yesterday. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, when you're talking about like the changes we see like in the community when there's stuff like this too, I like going to look at the traffic stats for the subreddit, what's bringing people in. And so like if I look at the 30 days, the last 30 days of traffic, there's 2 huge spikes, and it was the 11th and the 24th. So obviously those are, like without looking back, that was the announcement of the training change, and then obviously the daily update. And traffic nearly triples when stuff like that happens, because it brings a lot of people out to see the details and then to talk about that stuff. So it's always fun to see the massive rise in engagement, even if it means triple the work as moderating stuff. Changes like that in the game really drive all the different varying conversations too, and just the flow of ideas that come from all the different random weirdo brains on Reddit. You know, like what thoughts are raised by these updates and all these people. I don't know. Like I always learn a lot, and this is stuff sometimes I know is coming weeks in advance too, and I still get new ideas from seeing how all the different people react. So that's always my favorite part.
Yeah, very cool. Question for everyone. How mindful are you of being positive or negative in your content? Is this something you try and manage with intention, or is it just your own outlook that is coming through? And Rick, since you were talking, let's just keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, I know this is something I've been thinking about a lot over the last year. So I know I found what I feel is a lot more negative lately. In the podcast too, is there's always some bug to point out and complain about, or some change that is going to negatively impact the game I've known for 10 years. And but I don't want to be a negative person. I don't think I am in real life. But I was, I was worried that that's what the podcast was becoming. Was just every 2 weeks, just here's what we don't like now. So it's something I've been trying to do, and not necessarily force myself to be more positive, but just trying to be mindful of not always being negative. But both Trample and Cat and Into the Clashverse, you guys have been immensely more positive than I feel I've been. So yeah, I was just wondering, is that just your natural outlook, or is it something you feel you need to do as a content creator, or just the whole thought process?
Kat, what do you think?
I agree with Rick. Yeah, sometimes I'm working on my show notes and I look at them and I go, wow, you're so negative. And then I have to sit down and think, I need to balance this because there's a lot of good stuff going on in the game. It's not all negative. Otherwise, we certainly wouldn't still be playing the game. You have to find that balance. But I think a lot of the complaining stems from our desire to see the game succeed. And we want it to be around to play. We want to be able to interact with the community. We want Supercell to hear our voices, because a lot of people are playing and they say things in game and don't have a way to reach out to the devs or Supercell to get their opinions heard. So in a way, we're able to express those views, and sometimes they are negative, sometimes they're positive, and hopefully we find a balance.
I honestly don't really think about it too much. I think I just kind of have a positive outlook on the game because I see so much hate on it online that it's it doesn't bring any value to the podcast or anything that I type in chat. Sure, you can make these kinds of negative comparisons about the game, but ultimately we're all here to have a good time. So I'm not too mindful about trying to be positive in the content. It just sort of happens.
You are always our silver lining kid.
I am.
Trample, what about you?
I am inherently a tremendously optimistic person. I think it's a function of how I grew up. My parents were both, in their own ways, very focused on the negative and not always pessimistic, but very willing to just. My mom played the role of the martyr so often, and it was always about wow, bad things are making me feel, and it just bothered me because I at a young age, I'm looking around this world is really cool. There's a lot of amazing stuff. Yes, this thing might not be perfect. That thing might not be perfect, but look at all this other amazing stuff there is to see. I think about going to museums. Sometimes I go to a museum and I see something that doesn't necessarily make sense to me. It doesn't necessarily resonate with me. I move on and I look at something else. Other people, they stand there, this is stupid. They call this art. Why would they? And to me, it's just a waste of energy, and it puts this really negative taste out there. So when I started making content, it's all, just positive stuff for me. It's the stuff that I'm excited about to share. Now, I don't bury my head in the sand. When I see things that could be better or should be better that would bring something greater to the community, I'm willing to say something. I'm willing to fight for it. I'm willing to sort of stand up and say, hey, let's go this direction. This is what we should do. I've got my own crusades that I am sort of fighting on the creator program side, where I have had an opportunity to make my voice heard. I am an intelligent individual that articulates my thoughts very clearly. And I feel like I've made some decent headway in some stuff, but I just really enjoy focusing on the positives of the journey. And so that just naturally comes out in my content. And I probably won't change that unless something catastrophic happens out here in the real world to absolutely shake my ability to focus on the positive. It's how I am in every day. I'm committed to continuous improvement. I always want to see a better version of myself. I want to see a better version of the people around us, just because we can continue to infect each other with more positivity and more happiness. So I'm never going to stop trying to do better, but I'm also somebody who is willing to smell the roses and talk about the wonder that we have around us and all the things that we appreciate. And that's just natural trample damage coming through. I should have named myself something different, not the word damage. It just sounds terrible, but that's just me.
But it rumbles
I'm sorry.
in the back of the throat really nicely.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not muted.
I'm going to speak to this from a slightly different perspective because I come from a software engineering background, and that's like one of the nice niches that I would want to bring and why I'm doing the podcast. But when you're an engineer and you're writing software, you spend 95% of your life with stuff broken. And that's just because you're building new things or needing to go fix bugs or trying to scale up because all of a sudden 1 million players joined that you weren't expecting. And there's always things to work on. And so early in my career, it was easy for me to be cynical about my view of the world. And I've worked really hard over the years to get away from that cynicism and try and look at things like, well, can we see it from, how hard it is to build software, how hard it is to build scale? And it really gave me a lot of empathy. And that's hopefully something that's coming across in the podcast is building a game like this at scale and delivering community. It's hard. And so when approaching it, it's like, I want to be positive. I want to give folks the benefit of the doubt of like, they're going to have to build something that people are willing to pay for because they're drawing salaries too, as well as fun, and it's a balance. And I'm pretty sure the developers aren't writing the exact game that they want to do because, well, they need to pull incentives in order for people to pay. So there's a balance of like being able to make games, and I try and be respectful and positive and be very intentional about that for the podcast and being in Discord. There's certainly times where I will go off on rants, and Wolfie is the receiving end of the rants that I put out. But in terms of the content, I try and really just be positive and at worst neutral about what's going on.
I think you do a good job of having that come across too. Like I know, I know I've told you, but just to point it out, hearing your perspective on that side of things, it's a perspective that I don't normally consider by default, and it brings a lot more. I don't know, maybe empathy isn't the right word, but I know like I've had really harsh views of Supercell in the game and stuff before, and becoming a creator and getting to meet those people, and it's additional information that I didn't have that has changed my judgment, and hearing your perspective on it too, it has done that. Spend all day on Reddit, and a lot of times it feels like I'm surrounding myself by negativity, and that kind of bleeds through into RTC sometimes. But I appreciate what your podcast has brought out into the larger community.
That's great to hear. I love feedback like that.
That really hits home,
especially when you're like, oh yeah, we got 12 listeners on this one. That
the grind is real.
Can't cheat the grind.
You cannot cheat the
grind. Well, Trample, you're too busy talking to realize you have listeners.
You guys get listeners?
So this is for all of us. What would make the biggest impact in your mind for Supercell to do next to make the game experience more positive? I think the biggest thing that I would like is the ability to try out equipments in FCs without limitations. I think that it's just like a necessary thing that you should be able to toggle like max equipment or even like a potion that gives you it for an hour would just be like fantastic. That's just my like one thing if I could add that I would love. So I guess I'll open it up to, let's do Kat. You want to start us off?
That's a great one. Hard to follow up on that one.
Ooh.
More ways to earn Starry Ore. That would be great. I'd like to see them just kind of pause instead of introducing a bunch of new stuff and new equipment. Take a breath, fix a bunch of the little things that are broken, see what's working, what's not. If something's not working, there's no shame in saying, hey, we tried this and it's not working. Let's either remove it or fix it or whatever. But I don't think they need to add a lot other than just like make some adjustments.
All right, dude, Drac.
I think I'm going to lean in on Cat and the ore economy. I think especially around Starry, your ability to earn that is highly tied to either spending a lot of money or your clanmates and their performance in regular wars and CWL, since that's the only way that on a quote unquote daily basis you can earn it is through that. Especially a lot of the events that they're doing, that it aligns more with what players currently need. So like revamp Kang games to have mirroring, what the economy looks like versus just keep doing the same thing. And perhaps even one starry or a day on your daily rewards bonus would just be something that is independent of Clan Wars perspective.
Nice. Cork?
I know what Trample's going to say, so I'm going to skip that part and continue to harp on ore instead. One of the biggest complaints we've seen about the update this week was that climbing or dropping trophies is now a lot harder. So managing what league you're in is now harder. The trophy changes, I think, are really necessary for managing the game overall with instant training. The Clash Clans doesn't have a trophy problem at all right now. I think everything that they've done with trophies is totally fair and makes sense. But it does highlight that Clash Clans has an ore problem instead, because the reason people want to be in higher leagues than their town hall should really allow them to be is because there's better ore up there. So tying ore to leagues is now more of a problem now that leagues are going to be a little more restricted. So yeah, I think finding a way to get people ore faster is probably one of the most needed changes right now. Almost as much as what I think Trample's about to say.
Okay, TD, he teed that one up for you.
Exactly.
Builder base 3.0. There is not a single person. It is, I feel like, hands down, by far, allowing people to use heroes while they're upgrading. This is something that I know I get, anytime I mention it, I get flack. People are like, they'd never do that because it would cut into their revenue and it would cost them and blah, blah, blah. The biggest reason why people stop playing this game is because the upgrade times take forever and they can't use their heroes while they're upgrading. I know we see stats about where people drop off and where people stop playing. It is because they have spent all this time and energy gathering the resources to upgrade their hero, and now they can't use it for an entire week. I know that there are people who, like me, and like many of you, have been willing to spend money on either gems early days or hero books or deals in the shops in the more recent days to allow ourselves to finish that upgrade with a book of heroes or a book of everything or a book of anything we can get our hands on so that we can continue to use the heroes while they're upgrading. If they made that change, there may be a very, very short-term impact in the amount of money that they wind up making from hero book sales. But in the long term, they will keep far more players playing the game if you can actually, because so much of the game, everything, almost everything you guys just talked about is ore. That's all heroes. It's all heroes are such an important and powerful piece of our army, and not being able to use them drives people away from the game. We want people to be able to clash anytime. Oh, but yeah, you're just going to be not using your heroes at all this week because they're all upgrading. So are you really going to be clashing? Probably not. I see a lot of people say, oh, I'll just put all my heroes down, then I don't play the game for a week. Then I come back and I start grinding again, and then I'll wind up putting my heroes down. People will still buy hero books. I still get hero books, even for heroes that I'm not necessarily using at the moment, because I want to free up my builder. And that is something that I think will always keep hero books as an option for people to want to spend gems, because it will free up their builders, particularly now when we can clash anytime and rack up as much loot as we want. The builders are going to be the limiting reagent, which gives us a more vested interest in potentially freeing up a builder with a cheap, relatively speaking, book of heroes is much cheaper than a book of building. So I buy a cheap book of heroes and I get my builder free. And then I can either start another hero upgrade or I can start another building. I feel like it will come together and coalesce into a much stronger long-term revenue stream if they just let people use their heroes. And I'm going to keep fighting that until we get it. And I think we're going to get it. I honestly think we're going to get that. There's just a bunch of little subtlety that all builds up together that does create friction. And that's what I was talking about when I was in Finland with some of the Supercell team. I just kept saying, you guys don't need to worry about the engagement as the metric, because we did the thing last summer where we had it's a whole month where people can use their heroes while upgrading. They said, we didn't get as much more engagement. I said, it's not about short-term engagement and bringing players back to the game. It's about protecting the players who have been willing to take the time to download the app and play the game and get to Town Hall 11 or 12 or 13 and then not feel like they are frustrated because there is too much friction in a game that prevents them from enjoying it. So they're going to just put it down and stop doing other stuff. The reduction of friction means we will retain more players long term. And that's the thing. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to bother upgrading because I only get 5 more DPS on this one and 65 more hit points, and is that really worth not being able to play the game for an entire week? But I need stronger heroes if I'm going to play at a better level, and I don't know, maybe I'll just quit playing.
This brings us to last question that Wolfie and I have for all of us is we're all playing a mobile game. Some of us for many more years than we care to admit at times. There have been times where like my friends and family like, what, you're kind of foolish for spending so much time, energy, and effort on this. You know, we're going to release this podcast on April 1st, which is, you know, famous, you know, one of the best days on the internet to enjoy. But it's April Fool's. So what do you tell people that keeps you going on the game and, you know, to spend that quote unquote foolish amount of time as we do, not just playing the game, but hang out in Discord and creating content and the like?
On the spot.
So Kat, let's start with
Okay.
you.
I'm a stubborn person. I love the game. I think it's mostly the people that keep me coming back every day. You know, for so many years when it first started, you know, you're in there, you're farming every day. You know, so there's that engagement in game, and then Discord came along and it opened up new ways to engage. So the community and the friends that I've made over the years, that's what keeps me going.
It's just fun. Like it's always been fun. And just every aspect of it too. Like the game evolves in a way that is slow enough to not be overwhelming for me, but fast enough to keep me interested. Being involved as in a larger part in the community keeps it interesting too. Reddit, you know, I get to help drive changes in that overall community and kind of play the man behind the curtain sometimes with what we're doing, removing stuff or highlighting other issues. That's always been fun. And the creator side of stuff is always fun and interesting. Like it takes up a lot of my time. It really does. But it's all different enough to be continually interesting and fun enough to keep me engaged. And for something I'm not getting paid for, it's probably too much of my time, but means it's going to be really easy to walk away the minute it stops being fun. You know, any individual aspect of it too. I can, if I'm not getting anything out of being a creator anymore, that can end. I can walk away from Reddit easy enough. And I don't know, like I know I'm going to stop playing Clash at some time too. The minute it stops being fun, it's easy enough to walk away from too. So it's nice to all that different kind of engagement. I don't know. I love it. I'm saying it's fun 1,000 times, but it's that simple.
I think the biggest thing that keeps me in the game is my dad's wallet. I mean, my dad. And so I think just having someone, even in our own house, and I know for a lot of people, this is like you guys have said, like Discord or in game chat, but just having someone to talk to about the game or to discuss new ideas, new army comps. Like I know recently we've added the golem into our attacks and it started letting us crush bases. And you can just have so much fun. You can banter back and forth like we do on a podcast. And it just keeps me going. Like there are days that I have really rough patches, and then just being able to sit down with my dad and clash together, it just makes the whole thing, even if I'm not enjoying the game itself, I'm enjoying the time I spend with my dad. And so I think it truly is just finding the right people keeps me foolishly with this game.
Oh, I think you just got a raise in your allowance. Oh man. Okay, Trample, what are your thoughts?
I've had people over time ask me similar questions, you know, something along the lines of, you know, why do you spend so much time on an app game? And the answer that I give when the question is posed in that fashion, which has, I'll say, a slightly more negative connotation, my answer is, what is it about our interaction that makes you think I need to justify how I spend my time to you? And then I turn away from whoever it is that asked me the question, or I otherwise block them out. Because at the end of the day, I'm not feeling like I need to justify myself to anybody. I've said very proudly on my podcast, I wear women's deodorant and I bring butt wipes to work, and I am who I am, and I embrace all of that at every moment of every single day. Now, to somebody who, in a much more positive way, were to ask me, what is it about the game that drives you and makes you so compelled to engage in the community and make content? And I would say, I love the sound of my voice. And I just can't get enough of it. And whether it's YouTube videos or TikToks, when I watch those over and over again, I will listen to my own. Actually, I don't do that. I don't watch my own videos very often. But I just love I love the game. I love the community. I love the people. I love the players. It's a dynamic game. It is so multifaceted. There's the building element of, seeing our villages grow in the same way that I used to like to play Heyday and this game, The Croods, which is a separate story from that for another time. It's just always driven me, and it's something that I find to be a very stimulating way to spend my time. And I am happy to continue doing so as long as they continue generating the type of content that they've been making. And I will always try to find the positivity in whatever it is that they've put out, because honestly, even if it's not perfect, it's something that I still enjoy.
In addition to all that, I really love the fact that it is an ever evolving game. It gives something new, every quarter that they're trying to do things, and it's where strategies change. And I know we lock in on the meta, but over time that changes, and there's new strategies and new base building techniques, and it's just constantly evolving. So in addition to the community that has just become really dear to me over the years, even when even hardships in life, I know I'll use Kat as an example, has definitely supported what was going on and was always there and to be an ear or whatever. So between the community aspect and, like Wolfie said, just being able to play this game with my kid through on a daily basis, it gives us a touch point. Double down on what Rick was saying, like when it stops being fun, we can stop. I want to really thank everybody for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule. Thanks for being such a great group of content generators and being positive and really encouraging folks. So given all what's going on in the world, I love the fact that we can still try and be positive and bring enjoyment to the game. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. This is a great talk.
Yeah.